The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to Getting Ranked in Search Results for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses. I wanted to go through a little bit of GNU's search engine optimization tools. We have search engine optimization tools that enable you to do competitive intelligence analysis as well as content relevancy analysis. So I'm going to take you out and show you just really quickly what the tools look like and what they accomplish. So the first tool is the SEO score. So that's the competitive intelligence score for your site. What this tool does, and so you can identify your sites within GNU. You can identify your sites and your pages, and then you can identify your keywords, which keyword is #1 keyword, etc. And then you can run a competitive analysis and get the results. We'll give you a score between 0 and 100, and that score will basically tell you where you rank and what you need to look at. And if you have a high score, you're going to have really good, you're going to be up there in the search results. So when I look at an SEO score, what I look at is this one ranks as 37. So here we have a site, garage doors custom is the key phrase, and we're basically looking at it and telling you, okay, you're closest competitively to number 26 in the rankings, and what URL that is. We tell you how competitively close you are, and then you should have at least 10 more inbound links that follow these parameters. And then we also have definitions, and we can teach you exactly what those parameters are, but keyword density and things like that. But basically, if you can get 10 more inbound links, you can be equal in competitiveness to this particular player. So it doesn't have to be climb up the search engine results pages one at a time. It can actually become a game of leapfrog. We'll also tell you other factors that you can improve on your pages and with the sorts of inbound links that you're building for your search engine optimization efforts. So what we try and do is give you exactly what needs to occur and what you can focus on to improve your rankings. So we take the guesswork out of it. So I wanted that to just to be able to show you that. And then when it comes to content score and your content relevancy, what's really important within Google now is that your pages are relevant for the search phrase that you are looking to rank for. So it's also important if you do any sort of pay-per-click campaigns at all that your landing pages are also have a high quality score, otherwise you pay more per click. So in order to look at that, we have what we call the content relevancy, because one of the things is, well, how can I make my page and my content more relevant for this search phrase? And so our content relevancy analysis will go in and do a whole bunch of analysis of all the top pages, and using natural language analysis and whatnot, it will basically look at, given all of that, what's the low, the mean, and the high score for the content on your page. In other words, how relevant is the content on your page compared to the pages that are ranking? And then we'll give your page a score. So what you want to do is get your page into, at least in the middle here, so this page is doing fairly well. And what we'll also give you then is a bunch of theme words. So if you think about making sure that your key phrase is at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom of the page, so 3 times in your copy, and then you fill in with key phrases, we've basically ranked them and said whether that word already is in your content or whether it's not in your content. And so you take some from the top at 100, so we rank them from 99 and 98, and you work those into your content so your content can be super readable as well. So it makes the whole way of writing content on your pages easier. So that's our content relevancy analysis tool. So you can use these tools and you can run new analysis, and then that will help you understand where you are and what your focus needs to be to move up in the search engine rankings. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall is an expert when it comes to SEO and works with some of the top organizations. So he works with AOL, 1-800-Flowers, and he also is who the U.S. Patent Office has hired to train their patent clerks when they're evaluating search technology. So he's no slouch when it comes to knowing what you need to do to rank. So I'm going to introduce Mike. Mike, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
All right, thanks, Kim. Great to be with all of you here today. We're going to go through some elements of internet marketing that I hope will be helpful to you and your businesses, and we'll have time at the end for some Q&A, but hopefully I'll cover a lot of the things that you're interested in. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to walk through information on selecting keywords for your target audience, how to assemble content for your pages that's SEO optimized and still readable and engaging for your visitors, which is important. You really have to do both. And then we'll cover some link building strategies that will help you gain authority from the search engines, and the impact of some of the recent algorithm changes and what that means for SEO efforts you engage in. And here we're talking specifically about Panda updates and Penguin updates. And then we'll have time for questions. So let's talk about keywords. I want to talk about a twist here on two different maxims, one of which is more well known than the other. The first, it's not what you know, but who you know that matters. This is something that I'm sure all of you have heard before. When it comes to keywords and reaching your target audience, a twist on this maxim gets at a common mistake that people make. When they're trying to figure out what key phrases do I want to go after, they think about what they know about their industry, what they know about their company. And they start thinking, well, I know that these words are important, and this is how I would search if I was looking for something. But what really matters is not what you know, but the people who are searching and who they are and how they search. And so you should never try to make a guess at what your key phrases should be. And we'll go over a couple of tools that you use, but even when people are using these tools, they're guessing. And they're missing out on a huge amount of benefit that these tools have to offer. Because what people do is they take the tool, whether it's Word Tracker or Google Keyword Tool or Keyword Discovery or anything like that, and they just start typing in words that they already are thinking about and then seeing what numbers they get back. And that's not what they should be doing. You should really be going through and trying to figure out who your audience is and how they would be looking for what you have. And then the second maxim is in Latin here, and this is from actually an introduction to the annual general knowledge paper exam of King William's College. It says, to know where you can find anything is, after all, the greatest part of erudition. What we typically hear this as is something more like half of knowledge is knowing where to find it or something like that. But this gets at another aspect that's important for keyword research, and that is where you're going to find the information. This is kind of two sides of one coin. People who are searching are trying to find you, and your keyword research, you're trying to find them. You're trying to identify who your target audience is by what kinds of things they are typing in when they're searching, the phrases that they use in their own language, not in yours. So it's important to keep in mind this aspect of key phrase research. It's you trying to find your audience, not keyword hunting, which is the way most people go at it. So there are a number of different tools that you can use. You can use, and these are just some of the more commonly known ones: Word Tracker, Keyword Discovery, SpyFu, Google's keyword tool, and Google Insights. And I'll start with Word Tracker first. This is a really good tool for digging into finding the behaviors of your target audience as opposed to just keyword hunting. A couple of rules of thumb when using Word Tracker. One, you should start with a very generic topic first. The more generic you start with Word Tracker, the more information they will return to you in response. If you start with something really, really specific, you know, like blue baby strollers for twins, right? You're going to get a very narrow response as far as what they pull from their database. But if you just start with something like baby stroller, you're going to get a lot more information. And what you're looking for are words that tell a story by the phrases that they type in. One aspect of Word Tracker that a lot of people don't use, a lot of times because they don't know about it, it's Word Tracker's question tool, which is really good to use. You type in a generic key phrase, and it will return for you actual questions that people are typing in. Those are gold mine, because if you can find an actual question that's commonly typed in, and you create content that answers that, and for example, even make your title tag that exact question, that's typically going to be a very long tail key phrase. It'll be easy to rank for, but it'll also bring in traffic that easily converts, because that's typically someone that's already in buy mode. They really know what they're looking for. So you should definitely take advantage of that. One thing I'll say about keyword discovery is that if you are optimizing for international areas and you want to limit your research to people who are searching in Spain or in Italy or in France, and keyword discovery is going to be a really good option for you because it has features to facilitate that, whereas Word Tracker does not. SpyFu is also a useful tool. A lot of people use this for paid advertising, trying to find out what their competition is focusing on as far as key phrases. It also helps you to look at their ads and see which ones are working, which ones aren't. But SpyFu is definitely a good tool when you're trying to figure out what your competition is doing in paid search that's actually working for them. And that's actually a good key for you even for natural search or organic search, because you're going after the same audience. But people who are going after really competitive key phrases in PPC, because of the fact that they pay for every click, they're very careful in which key phrases they target. So the ones that are highly competitive or even have high average cost per click values are going to be ones that are money key phrases. You can be pretty confident that people searching using those words are actually buyers. And then, of course, there's Google's keyword tool. And at this point, I will talk about some of the differences and the source of data. Google is obviously the 800-pound gorilla, and they've got more market share than anyone else. I believe it's somewhere between 70 and 80% now, which is huge. And their data source really can't be matched, because when you're using their tool, you're getting the information about who's searching in Google. Whereas keyword discovery, although they have a partnership with different ISPs around the world, and they get a lot of information in, they probably don't have as large a representative sample as Google. Word Tracker gives you a couple of options. Word Tracker will allow you to use their database, which still comes from Metacrawler and Dogpile, and you can use Google's database as well through their API on the back end, but you're limited in how many times you can use that per month. One thing I'll say about Word Tracker's database using Metacrawler and Dogpile, it represents a really small percentage of the market share, less than 1% easily. So it'll be fairly skewed, and in really technical areas, you may not even find much there, because people searching on technical things like really detailed medical terminology are not using Metacrawler and Dogpile, so their searches won't show up. However, some people will say they like using Word Tracker's database for more popular terms because it's not skewed by marketers. So you've got marketers who are using Google and Yahoo and Bing constantly doing their research. All those searches come into the tally that you get for any particular key phrase. Whereas, to my knowledge, no marketer is doing any research in Metacrawler and Dogpile. And so the searches that come through those locations won't be skewed by lots of internet marketers doing their work or all the tools they use and things like that. So those are some things to keep in mind. With Google's keyword tool, I would always recommend logging in when you use it and then selecting all columns so that you can get all the information. You can select all columns when you're not logged in, and it will tell you you've selected all columns, but it's not showing you everything. So make sure you're logged in so that you can see everything that's there. And for, it's obviously designed for people doing paid search, but for organic search, the things that you want to pay attention to are obviously the search volume and the search volume trend, but you also want to keep in mind actually looking at the competitiveness in PPC to see if you've got some buying terms there. And then with Google Insights, it's obviously the same data source, but the great thing about Google Insights, especially for small businesses, is being able to see who's searching on what from your particular area. You can drill down by country, by state, by county, by metropolitan area, and you can see where many searches are coming from. A lot of small businesses will actually use this to, but you have to plan this well, to actually track offline advertising, even something as simple as passing out pamphlets. You can see that if you use certain terms, you can actually generate some searches on those terms. And you can go into Google Insights and figure out where you should do your offline advertising by looking at what areas of your county or your metropolitan area are actually searching most for the key phrases that you're trying to target. You can also see trends over time from year to year. You can see rising searches. So if there's an uptick, 20%, 40%, and in some cases as high as 5,000%, that's what they call a breakout term, then those are terms that you really want to pay attention to. But this is especially useful for local businesses and small businesses that are serving a particular geographical area. So I went over a few different metrics, and I want to talk about these. I call these opportunity indicators. With any tool, they're going to have some kind of flagship metric that's going to be designed to help you choose which key phrase you're going to go after. So let's talk about KEI, which stands for Key Phrase Effectiveness Index, or Keyword Effectiveness Index. In general, the higher this number, the better the opportunity is, and it takes into account how much popularity there is for that search term, typically the average monthly volume of searches, and the competition. So how competitive is it? So if you've got high volume and low competition, you're going to get a high KEI score. So it's trying to help pick out for you which key phrases are going to be best to go after. Then you've got organic competition. Now generally, when people think about this, they have in mind the number of results returned for the search. So if you go to Google and you type in your key phrase and you see at the top how many results are returned, that's what most people think about when they think this is my competition. So if you see 5 million, 10 million, 15 million results returned, then people think, wow, that's really competitive. Maybe I ought to move on to another key phrase. But you really should be looking at less than that, because not all of those results are actually optimized. And if you're doing optimization, your competition is really only the folks that are doing optimization. So you can do an in title and an in anchor search using those two operators in Google, and you can get a more streamlined result set. Because what that does, it limits the results to only those that have the key phrase in the title tag and have the key phrase in at least one link pointing to the page that's ranking. In Word Tracker, their formula for competition already takes that into account, so you don't have to calculate that on your own. So PPC competitiveness is another opportunity indicator. This is going to help you figure out whether or not there's a lot of bidding going on in paid search. If there is, for a particular key phrase, that usually means that the searchers are buyers. Then you have average cost per click, and the higher that number generally means that the more valuable that traffic is. And then you've got search volume trend, which is something that's important to keep tabs on, because you don't want to target or go after a key phrase during a time when it is dipping in search volume, say like if it's seasonal during the summer. You'd rather go after search terms that are rising or at least not dipping during that same period of time, because you can't go after everything at once. Then you have average monthly search volume, which is important to figure out whether or not it's worth going after because of the volume of traffic, and that one's pretty straightforward. So those are the things that you want to keep in mind off the kind of the top of my mind as far as key phrase research. Now, which tool you use really depends on what kind of information you need. I generally use a combination of Word Tracker, Google's keyword tool, and Google Insights. I use them in different circumstances, but typically a combination of those three tools will give me all the information that I need. So let's talk about copywriting for spiders and people. This is a quote that I think really captures what you need to know in writing for the web. Writing for the web is using words, typography, punctuation, and images to communicate your messages in ways that will engage your visitors. So there are three components of this. It's how you say what you want to say, what you want to say, and what your visitors want to see and how they want to see it. Those are the three things that you need to keep in mind. And I'm going to go over three principles that help you achieve the goal of meeting those requirements. So they will help you create great copy, these principles, that's compelling for both the search engine and the human audience, effectively hitting two birds with one stone, because you really need to do both. So, principle number one, put yourself in the position and mindset of your audience. This is essential for keeping an audience or customer-focused style of communication in your messaging. With respect to the search engines, you also have to understand what a search engine is and how it thinks. So there are two things here. You want to get into the mind of your audience, and you want to get into the mind of the search engine. So, what's the mind of a search engine? First, let's understand what it is. It is an information retrieval system, and it has three goals: recall, precision, and ranking. The first just says, give me everything I ask for. The second, give me only what I ask for. And the third, give it in a meaningful order. If you understand these three things, you'll understand a lot about why a search engine does things the way it does, what it can do, what it can't do, and what it must not do. So, in your copywriting, here's how you address these three goals. For recall, your copy needs to be thorough and authoritative. For precision, your copy needs to be focused and concise. And for ranking, your copy needs to be topically, competitively, and personally relevant. Those are three areas of relevance. So topically is somewhat obvious. It's just that you've got to be talking about the topic in a meaningful way. You know, one paragraph or two paragraphs just won't cut it. Competitively means you've got to be talking about it in a way that is better than what your competitors are doing. And that's where something like adding relevant terms comes into play, when you have the aspect of Janu's tool that tells you what the important relevant terms are, and it's looking at your competition to see how they're using it, so you can know how you score up against your competitors. So that's something that you really need. And then personally relevant, this really has to do with personalization, because each person is going to see the results in a different order based on their history with the search engine, based on their preferences. And I don't have time to go into the details of it, but putting in those supporting terms will actually help with personalization. So this middleman, the search engine, will see fit to deliver your content to more of your intended audience if you meet these three areas. So, and in keeping with the third part of our definition for writing for the web, you must know how the search engine wants and needs to see these. So with recall, they see thoroughness and authority in the breadth of your content, in inbound links, and in outbound links. That last thing is something that a lot of people forget. They don't think it matters much, but it does. So it's important to link out to authoritative sites, and obviously you don't want to link out to competitors, but some information content, even something like a Wikipedia page, could be helpful in linking out to it using your key phrases in a link text. Then there's precision, focus, and conciseness. You want to control topic drift, and then there's internal linking and link text that helps with that. Topic drift is when you talk about too many unrelated topics on the same page. So your site doesn't have to be all about the same thing, but a particular page should be as tightly focused as possible. And even in your internal linking, it's good to have pages on your site that are about the same thing linked to each other. But you don't want to have a page that is about shoes linked to a page that is about baby strollers. Categories are going to link to each other through the navigation, but internal detailed pages should really just link to other pages about the same topic. And then with ranking or relevance, search engines want to see depth of content, the use of related terms, which we talked about before, and then also social signals. Social signals are becoming more and more important, especially as you use things like Google Profile, Google Plus, authorship tagging, things like that. But this is how you get into the mind of the search engine when writing for the web, focusing on thoroughness and authority through breadth of content, inbound links and outbound links, focus and conciseness by controlling topic drift, internal linking, and the link text, and then ranking and relevance by looking at the depth of your content, the use of related terms, and then social signals as much as possible. One thing I'll say about social signals, you don't necessarily have to have a link pointing to your page for a social signal to count. If they just mention your company name or your site name, that actually counts as a social signal as well. So how do the search engines see these things in your code? Some components of your page that influence ranking are here following. This is what most people talk about when they talk about SEO and where to put my key phrase. Title tags, description tags, keyword tags, H1, keyword density, keyword proximity, and things like bold, italics, and list items. So the title tag is going to be the most important on-page element. And you want to make sure that your key phrase is in the title tag and that it's as close to the front as possible. Description tags and keyword meta tags do not impact ranking. Description tags will impact your click-through rate, obviously, because the searcher sees that. And the keyword meta tag is not going to influence either click-through rate or ranking. So when you're writing your description tag, you need to have in mind click-through rate. So it needs to have a call to action. It needs to trigger a response from the searcher. An H1 tag can be helpful. I would only think about the first H1 tag on your page as having any significant influence on your ranking. And then there's keyword density, which is not actually as important as most people think. A lot of people obsess over it. Copywriters hate when people obsess over it because it ties their hands when they're trying to write. But keyword density, the frequency or number of times your target key phrase occurs in the copy relative to all the words in the copy, is not a formula that the search engines use to figure out where to rank your page. Keyword proximity is actually more important. It looks at how close together the terms of your key phrase are and how evenly distributed throughout the copy your page is. And then you have other elements like bold, italic, and list item. One thing I would say is the list item tag will definitely give you some relevance boost. So be careful what words you put in the list item. Italics and bold, I think they can have some influence, but not as much as many people think. I would definitely focus more on list items than the other two as far as how much boost that you'll get. So how do you get into the mind of your target audience? And this is, now we're talking about the human reader, not the search engine. You must write in such a way that clearly relates to their wants and needs. And if you can't use the old trusty Vulcan mind meld, you'll have to resort to the central component of our next principle, which is research. But first, I want to look at a quote from Cicero. If you wish to persuade me, you must think my thoughts, feel my feelings, and speak my words. And this is actually a principle that relates to all kinds of marketing, and it really encapsulates, I think, almost everything that you need. So when you're writing your copy, you're actually trying to persuade someone, and you need to understand what their thoughts are about the matter, what their feelings are, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, their goals, and you need to know what words they use to communicate those things. This is why keyphrase research is important. And once you do the work needed to wrap your mind around this, really thinking about who your audience is, why they're searching for what you have, because every search has a story behind it, and what their thoughts are and what words they use, then you're in a really good position to write copy that's going to be persuasive. And when they read it, they'll feel like you're actually speaking to them. So 80% of copywriting is going to be research. I use a relationship paradigm here, and something that I learned when I took a preparation for marriage class was that you must be a student of the other person and be motivated by seeking their good in order to understand the things they can't tell you that will help improve the relationship. The interesting thing is in Ghana, there's a local language there. The word for spouse is actually the same word that means to study. And so you do need to study and research your audience before you write one single word to them. If I gave you an assignment, for example, I want you to write a page worth of content on convincing somebody to watch a particular TV show. So you write it. And then I give you the same assignment again, and I say, okay, I want you to do the same thing, the same goal, but now I want you to write this to your best friend. Then I give you the same goal again. Now I want you to write this to your boss. Even though you're writing about the same topic with the same goal, your copy is going to look extremely different between those three because you have in mind who you're writing to. So how well do you know your readers? You can use something called prospect personas, or what I like to call method acting for copywriters. This is something that I learned from a guy who wrote the book Google AdWords for Dummies. And method acting, I'm sure you're familiar with it, is a family of techniques that actors use to create in themselves the thoughts and emotions of their characters. And you can do this in segmenting your audience. You sit down and you think, who are my ideal prospects or my best customers? And there may be different types of ideal customers that you have from different segments. But you need to ask yourself questions like, who are they? Where do they live? What's their average household income? What are their hobbies? What types of things do they do related to this subject area? Do they search a lot? Do they search seldomly? Things like that. And there are tools that you can use to get this kind of information. One interesting tool is called Plenty of Fish. It's a kind of a dating site, but they have a demographics tool where you can type in any key phrase, and based on that key phrase, it'll tell you a breakdown of education level, hobbies, interests, household income by average, whether it's more men or women that are interested in that particular topic that's reflected by that key phrase. And then obviously Google's keyword tools, Google Insights will also give you some geographical data, some demographic information. But you really do need to do this so that when you're writing, you have someone in mind with real thoughts and emotions and characteristics, and it will reflect and how persuasive your copy is when that person comes to visit. Don't try to write a piece of copy that pleases everybody. Write specific pages that will be appealing to certain segments of your audience, and you do a lot better. So let's talk about link building. First thing we want to talk about is position of links and sources for links. It matters where your link is. We're talking about a link on someone else's site pointing to you. You see the diagram here. It's kind of a standard layout for a page. Header, sidebars, footer, and then the main content in the middle. A link that is embedded in copy in the main portion of the page is always better for you than a link anywhere else. Now, in the diagram here, you'll see the link in the copy labeled as worth more. I do want you to understand that the other labeling doesn't say worthless. It means worth less, just in case you're confused there. So a link on the sidebar, it's going to have some value, but not as much as the link in the copy. Same thing with the footer link. In fact, one thing that you want to stay away from is site-wide footer links. That's not going to hurt you, but it's not really going to help you. If it's on a page that is not relevant to the key phrase or to the page it's linking to, if that site is not relevant, it can hurt you because it will look like a paid link. We'll talk about that later. So ideally, you want the link embedded in copy, and the copy that's around the link should be relevant to what is pointed to in the link, the target page. So sources for links. There's obviously internal linking, which does help in ranking for a page. It's obviously not as powerful as an external link coming in, but it still helps. And it primarily helps with link reputation. So with every link pointing to a page, the text in the link, the anchor text, describes the page and adds to its relevance, or in some cases may diminish its relevance. So friends and families, blogs and sites are all good places to get links from. Associations and organizations. So if your company is a member of any organizations and they have a membership page, links on that membership page will actually help you quite a bit. One of the rules of thumb in the value of a link is that the harder the link is to get, the more valuable it is to have. So if the search engine knows if your link's on a membership page of an organization, let's say like Better Business Bureau or Chamber of Commerce, then they know, well, someone had to examine this guy's site. They had to investigate the company. They know it's a legitimate company. There's a real person behind it. There's a real business behind this website. And so someone has done all of that work for the search engine, because the search engine needs to know that what's behind the page or the URL is real. So anytime there's that human editorial process involved and you getting a link, that's always going to be helpful to you. And then clients and suppliers are good places to get links from. Now, one thing I do want to say is make sure when you get links from clients and suppliers, don't get a site-wide footer link. Try to get a link on one page that's relevant. And if possible, their homepage, if they'll do that. And then business directories, or sometimes it's just called vertical directories. It can be a directory that's for a particular industry or just on a particular topic. And these are great places to get links. And paid ones are even more valuable. This is one case in which it is not a bad thing to have a paid link when you're talking about these directories. So for example, Best of the Web, and there's even a local version of Best of the Web, which are really good directories that have a link in. And they have that human editorial process, but you do pay. And that's a paid link that does not, is not one that Google frowns upon. So you want to make sure that you find as many of these as you can that are related to your particular subject area or your industry. And when you do this, you're going to achieve two things. The link that you get is going to be really relevant because it's going to be in a category or subcategory related to your field, and it's going to be in a place that has this human editorial process. So you're going to win in two ways. Blogs are also great places to get links from. You can do guest blogging or comments or syndicate articles. Consider guest blogging on other people's blogs or writing articles for online journals if you can. And typically the bio line can be a place for great links. Even better if they allow embedded links inside the article itself. But you need to be very careful here to make sure that the places you're getting the links from are quality places. I'm sure you may have heard recently, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, a lot of blogs that got hit pretty hard by recent updates in Google because they were low quality. And the thing that many people didn't keep in mind is that you can write a really high quality article, send it out, it gets hosted, it's there, you've got your link, but it's going to be devalued if the rest of the content on that blog is low quality. And so all of your hard work could just be thrown into the trash because it's basically a guilt by association kind of thing. Press releases are also great places for including links when you can. So whenever you've got newsworthy information, it's good to release it to the public through a service like PR Web. There are lots of others out there, but PR Web is one of the most well-known ones, but press releases are very helpful. It's also useful to get some type of contact or use of a service like Help Out a Reporter. I think it's HARO, I think it's .com, where you can have journalists contact you when they are interested in an expert in a certain field. And that's a great way to get your information out with some links. So social profiles and business profiles are becoming more and more helpful these days. Some folks don't value the links from social networks because they use no-follow parameters in links now, but they are still helpful to you. Don't be don't ignore them because the link is a no-follow link. In fact, it's helpful to have no-follow links. If you don't have enough, it doesn't look normal. So just get the link if you can. Don't worry whether it's a do follow or a no follow. This is better for your overall backlink profile and therefore has SEO benefit. So many will tell you, well, you don't get benefit from a no follow link. And you don't, not directly, not SEO benefit. But you do get indirect SEO benefit from a no follow link if it's part of your overall profile. And of course, you'll still get the traffic from the link. But you want to look at obviously things like Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus and Google Profile, and as many as you can, join those. And here are some that are not thought of as much: 123people.com, names.com, businessweek.com, and of course Google Profile is one that's becoming more prominent. Blogging. You should have a blog on your own site. This will draw in links. According to HubSpot, the average site with a blog gets 55% more traffic, 2 times more links, more pages indexed, and more frequent crawling. And this is just because you have the blog and post on a regular basis. So, on sources for links, kind of a brief history of the cat and mouse game between optimizers and search engines. Reciprocal links were usually done first, and they have since been devalued. They don't hurt you, but they don't help as much as they used to. So people got smart and they figured we'll do 3-way links. A links to B, B links to C, and C links to A. And that doesn't work either the way it used to. So people figured, well, I'll just pay for a link. And I'm sure you're aware that people have noticed Google is out on a really intense campaign to penalize people for paid links that don't use the no-follow attribute. And then there's what I call the green monster, the Google PageRank score. People will obsess over having links only from pages that have a really high Google PageRank score, and that is not something you should obsess over. It's good to have links from pages with, a Google PageRank of 3 or higher, but don't obsess over it because it does not have the same relevance or SEO boost that it used to. Google is looking at a lot more elements of your link than just the Google PageRank. So, what to do about some of these recent changes? Let's talk about Panda first. There's some criteria that you're looking at for Panda that you need to keep in mind. A low click-through rate percentage from Google's result pages for a page or a site can be something that deems your page as low quality. High percent of boilerplate content, the same on every page, also is something that registers as a low quality page. Low or no quality inbound links to a page or a site, either by count or percentage. So if most of the links pointing to your site are low quality links, that's going to hurt you. Low or no mention to links to a page or site in social media and from other sites is going to register your page as low quality. And the folks at Google have said that low quality content on part of a site can impact a site's ranking as a whole. So that's something to keep in mind for your own site, and for syndicating your content, it matters where it ends up and what else is on that page, on that site. So how do you know you've been hit? Well, you need to keep track of when Panda releases come out. You can usually find that on Google's Blogspot blog. Check your analytics against the date corresponding to the Panda releases. You can look at traffic sources and narrow the report to non-paid Google traffic in the US, and then look for any surprising drops in traffic that coincide with Panda release dates. And then you're going to have to figure out what that Panda release was touching on, and you'll usually find out that in the blog. And then you'll see if you have pages that violate the guidelines. Remember, you can't just look at a page that is dropped and say, well, this is the page that Panda didn't like. Because, as we looked at before, low quality content on part of a site can impact the site's ranking as a whole. So you may see a page drop that's actually a high quality page, but it's your low quality page that's causing that. So, how do you recover from Panda? You remove or repair the offending pages, and then you wait for the next update to see improvements. It won't be immediate. You'll have to wait for the next update to roll out, and then you'll see when they refresh if your problem has really been fixed. So, a Penguin update, which is on the top of most people's minds these days. One thing to keep in mind, there's a lot of talk out there about what it is supposed to be addressing. There were 52 algorithm updates that month when Penguin was released. And there was an announcement on April 24th that points to two main points of focus, and that really is quality content and quality links. So I mentioned the first point because you need to be careful when people say, oh, this is what Penguin was addressing, or that is what Penguin was addressing, or I saw this happen. And keep in mind there were 52 algorithm updates that same month. So some issues that warrant discussion and clarification about Penguin are whether or not it is an algorithm or a penalty, and does that really matter? Well, one thing, Google these days is using the phrase manual action instead of penalty. And Penguin is an algorithm. It's an algorithm update. It is not a penalty. So you will get demoted, but it's what's called an algorithmic demotion. And what's happening is they're not penalizing you, for example, for low quality links that you have. The algorithm is not counting those links anymore. You can think of it in terms of it's sucking the juice out of those links so that they don't help you anymore. And so this matters, understanding this, because of what you may think of doing to recover. If you think that it's just a penalty, then you'll say, oh, all I have to do is find the links that were bad and just get rid of them. And then my ranking will come up. It's the same thing that might happen if you make a mistake with your title tag. Let's say keyword stuffing, right? And then you get penalized for that because it's spammy. And then you just go back and you fix the title tag and you'll come back to where you were. Penguin does not work that way. If you get rid of the links, that's not going to help your problem. The problem is those links used to support you in your position. They were a big reason for why you were ranked where you were. The juice had been sucked out like a chair whose legs have been knocked out, and now it's falling. So what you need to do is get new quality links that are worth giving you the ranking that you had before. You're not going to solve the problem just by getting rid of bad links. Before we go into questions, one thing, quality in content and quality in links is what they're looking for. They're looking for actually two aspects: real quality content. They want to know the content is real, not machine generated, not automated, and that it's quality. They want to know the links are real, not machine generated, but actual real links on real sites that have quality content. So I think we may have some time for questions.
Yep. If anyone has questions, just enter those in. I've got a few here, and we'll start with those, and as I see more, we'll go ahead and give you time. So ask all your questions. Now is the best time to get really the kind of information that you want. So we'll start with one on keyword research. What is the benefit of getting domain names with my keywords in it?
The benefit is actually not what it used to be. It used to be that having your key phrase in your domain name gave you an automatic bonus for SEO. But it doesn't give the same benefit that it used to. What it does do, however, is enables you to have more links that have link text with that key phrase in it because it matches your domain name. And it's natural to see lots of links that actually have the person's URL or domain name or company name in the link text. And so that gives you more latitude there in getting those kinds of links.
All right. Okay. Now, here's one on content. How frequently should I update my content and why?
Depending on your competitive landscape, I would say at least once a month. Keep tabs on your cache date when Google crawls your site and crawls some of your competitor sites. If you see that they're updating the crawl date once a week, you should be updating your page once a week. What it does when you update your content, it keeps your content fresh, so Google keeps you high in the listings, but it also makes them crawl your site more frequently. The more you update, the more frequently they'll come back and crawl your site on a regular basis.
What's an easy way that I can know what that cache date is?
If you go to Google, you do your search, and they have that preview feature where you mouse over the little arrow and then an image of your page shows up, and you'll see the cached link there. Just click on that, and at the top of the page, it will show you the last date they crawled your site.
Very good. How do you balance quality content and links versus the quantity of the content and links?
As far as that balance, I would say that quality trumps quantity all the time. The balance that you want to achieve really depends on what's happening with your competitors. That's really going to determine how much you need. So when you look at a particular target key phrase and you look at how many links your competitors have that are related to that key phrase, that gives you a really good idea of how many you need. But you should always focus on quality first rather than just quantity.
All right, around link building, I've heard that you should acquire new links slowly. Is that correct?
For some people, it is. It is correct to acquire new links slowly. It really depends on what your history has been. So you can use a tool like Majestic SEO to see how links have been acquired at what rate. If you acquire links that's too fast for what your history is, then it sticks out like a sore thumb and doesn't look natural and throws up a red flag for Google. But if it's in keeping with what you've done in the past, then that's fine. So based on what's happened, let's say over the last 3 or 4 months with your site, that'll give you a good idea of where you need to start. And of course, you can ramp up slowly. Now, one exception to this rule is in areas like social media and blogging. It's very common if an A-list blogger links to you and writes about your site or your company, that you'll have just a firestorm of links follow the coattails because of how many other people follow that particular blogger. Same thing in social media. There's a whole bunch of social media buzz about your site, and some really influential person in social media picks up on that and shares your page, your link, your info. It's very normal to see a whole lot of other people linking to you really quickly after that. So those would be exceptions to the rule. So it's worth your while to reach out to and make some kind of relationship with influencers in social media or in the blogosphere.
Okay, well, how does Google know what links look natural?
Google has a web graph, or I guess a mapping, of all of the pages in its database, in its index. So it knows who links to whom, when those links were acquired, and where those links are. So looking at that, it knows what's normal as far as how many links a page has, how many outlinks it has, how many inlinks it has, and it actually follows something called the power law, or what some people know as the 80-20 rule. And they look for what's called a power law distribution. If they see that, that's natural. To the degree that it doesn't follow that in link text or outbound links or inbound links, to the degree it doesn't follow that, that looks unnatural. And that is what throws up a red flag.
Okay, good. Well, I think we're almost out of time, and what I do want to be able to go through with people is that also to point out that Mike has an SEO training. He runs the Search Engine Academy in North Carolina, and his next training is August 6th through the 10th. And I will tell you that that 5-day training to do basic SEO and advanced SEO is excellent. I have attended it, and it is very, very good. So I would recommend that if any of you want to really take on search in a comprehensive way, that you arm yourselves with the basic stuff and the advanced stuff that now impacts search. And Mike is one of the best, has one of the best classes that I've seen out there. So anything you want to say about that, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. It's August 6th through 10th. The page, that's that URL there, will explain everything about it. One thing that you might not pick up on when you get to the page right away is that the course comes with a 6-month mentorship, and that's with me personally. So that means you don't get all this information dumped into your head and then you walk away and you're on your own. You have 6 months that you can interact with me over the material, and you're putting that into action. So that's something that you'll benefit from greatly if you take the course.
Excellent. Again, I highly recommend it. Well, at any rate, I don't see any more questions coming in, and we will make the slides available, or not the slides, but the presentation, the recorded presentation will be made available. We'll send everybody an email about that, and I really encourage you to share it with your colleagues and all of that. And then you can also go out to Facebook/Janu Marketing and like our Facebook page. That's where also we'll post new content as it becomes available and new webinars that we're going to be coming out with. So we'd love to have you interact with us out there as well. So again, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you taking the time to share all of this with us, and just thank you very much.
Thanks. You're welcome.
All right. Take care, everybody, and thank you for attending.